can you start by telling us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about how you would define your work?
My name's Angelica and I'm from Birmingham. I would define my work primarily as textiles-based exploration around humanism and human behaviours, so looking at different struggles for women and minorities through my own interaction of how I make the work.
Are there any specific themes that manifest in your work, like you said, feminist?
Yeah, so primarily throughout the 3 years it's been a lot of feminism and kind of misogyny, that kind of thing, just because that's an area that I really resonate with myself. But recently I have been looking more at consumerism and capitalism and how feminism plays into those as well, but also how they affect everyone in society. So it's just kind of a mix of lots of different social and political areas around women and around what it's like to live today.
Has it resulted from specific readings that you did, like specific books?
I don't think so. I think a lot of it has come from the political climate around that type of thing that I've been seeing online, and environmentalism and how consumerism is affecting that. It's just kind of come to a head in the last year or so, and it's really been something that I've been interested in, and I've always kind of shied away from including it in my work because I was so focused on the feminism side. I didn't want to cross over, but I think one of the most important things in your work is that it resonates with you, and this was something that I was always concerned about and always thinking about, so I think it was a great idea to kind of mix the two into my work.
So the relationship between the form and the content of your work is very direct.
Yes, yeah. Actually this term I have decided to make my work wearable, which obviously relates to the consumerism side of fashion over consumption and fast fashion and things like that, which is kind of the area of consumption that I'm most interested in. So that change in my work this term has been very, very interesting, as you say, with the form and content, and it's definitely something that I'm going to do next term for the big finale.
And do you have go-to materials that you use now?
Yeah, so last year I started crocheting in my work, which I really, really enjoyed, and I haven't actually done that so far this year, but I am going to next term because it is my favourite way to work, and I really like how controlled I can be, but also how many different shapes and textures I can get. I do a bit of sewing. My work this term has been a lot of hand stitching, and I've done a little bit of plaster. It's kind of an amalgamation of things this term, but yeah, I think crochet would be the one thing that to me defines my practice and defines the way that I work.
So it's kind of mixed media now.
Yeah.
How would you position your work within broader contemporary fine art practice? I mean, in simple words, is how would you define yourself, categorize yourself as an artist, which you don't have to do? Or would you say you're a feminist artist, or you're a sculptor, or you're a textile artist?
I think the one that would resonate the most would be textiles artist. That is kind of what I want to lead into following my degree, something to do with textiles and something to do with art. So I think that's the one that resonates the most. But I think, as you said, it's not necessary to categorise yourself that often, and I think each term I fall into kind of a different section of art, and I think there are so many different ways of creating and ways of thinking that are present in my work and in just contemporary art in general that yeah, it's quite hard to categorise yourself sometimes.
I see, yeah. So do you have artists that are your inspirations, would you say?
Yeah, I think my biggest inspiration would be Louise Bourgeois. she looks at a lot of the same things that I'm interested in, and the way that she creates is also the way that I aspire to create. Her work's very personal, but it's also very political and very social, and you can relate to it even though you're not the artist, which I think is really well done. I think it's amazing that she's able to do that, and it's something that I'd like to be able to achieve. And yeah, her construction is just amazing, and I just love her work.
So what are the different types of crafts you incorporate in your sculptures, like specifically?
So I've done a little bit of embroidery recently, which has been quite interesting. It's been quite time consuming, but that's been quite interesting. And then, as I said, hand stitching and crochet. There's been a bit of knitting. I think really anything that falls into craft I've done at some point in my practice, because I think that's quite an important part of my practice, is the craft side of it. Obviously, craft has been such a female-led thing in history, and it's been one of the only things that women are kind of valued for. So if anything, I think it's kind of a two-way street of practicing it within my work. But I think from a feminist perspective, it's kind of showing how we can take that reduction to craft into a new realm and show actually you can do more than just homewares and cute little clothes. You can make your own statement, and you can make a piece of artwork, and you can be just as good as the men out there.
Yeah, so reclaim it as a higher art.
Yeah.
I haven't asked about your process, because I imagine it's a long process and the stages are very different.
Yeah. So this term, the process has actually been quite vital to my concept. So I've been kind of labouring away at really intricate details, and then covering those details up, and then trying to uncover them, and then covering them up again until I can't really do it anymore. That is a new kind of thing. I haven't really done that process before. Mostly in the past, it's kind of been about doing and then recording as soon as I've done it. So for example, when I've done the crochet work, I'll record what kind of stitches I've done as soon as I've done them, so that I can recreate it again if I want to. But it is my own stitch pattern to begin with. But yeah, it's long, but it's rewarding to see how something can become its own thing without any prior, like I'm not copying a photo or anything, I'm not copying anyone else's pattern, I'm just making up as I go, and then it becomes its own thing as I work with
it. And are the patterns like pre-planned, or are they coincidental?
A lot of the time I pre-plan them, and then they just kind of form themselves. Some other times I don't plan, I just go straight for it. But yeah, most of the time if I do plan it, it really kind of just takes its own way as I carry on. So it's quite, a lot of the time it can be quite abstract and quite kind of imagined from my own way of working, because following a pattern, I mean I start with it but I never finish them.
And the colour palette is like very earthy tones, like human.
So I mainly work with found materials, which relate to kind of the subject matter. So as you said, earthy tones and like skin tones and things like that. But the main point of the materials is that they are found and that they're secondhand. Obviously relating to overconsumption and things like that. I want to recycle the materials into something new.